Alter egos in pro wrestling can be pretty awesome, even if some are highly theatrical and, well, highly unbelievable. A wrestler tapping into another part of their entire personality that they keep locked away for certain occasions sounds like typical anime or superhero fare, and it's something that really shouldn't translate well into pro wrestling, but when it works incredibly well. The ones I like are the dark and almost supernatural alter egos, the ones who act as violent psychological guardians who kick it up a gear as a way to inflict as much damage on their opponents as possible. But over the years there's also been alter egos born out of comedy or used as a way to trick opponents when the time's just right. Let's take a look at some of the most well-known and well-loved alter egos in today's video, and to set the ground rules, these must be true alter egos. Changing gimmick doesn't count, so for example, we can't say the Ringmaster's an alter ego of Stone Cold Steve Austin. Yeah, I know that sounds silly, and I know the vast majority of you already understand the assignment, but unfortunately, sometimes I need to make these things clear for folks in the comment section. Right, let's go. We'll get a few well-known alter egos out of the way first of all. The Demon King is Finn Balor's dark alter ego that didn't first appear in WWE, rather it debuted in New Japan. The reason why the Demon made its debut was because Finn, then wrestling as Prince David, wanted to stand out when facing Kota Ibushi at Wrestle Kingdom 8 back in 2014. As a matter of fact, the Demon was initially conceived to be the shadow of Kota Ibushi. Finn said the following on Cody Rhodes' podcast. I'd recently turned heel in New Japan and I was really fighting an uphill battle because I'd been babyface for so long, squeaky clean, white meat babyface. I was up against the shining light, Ibushi, the up-and-coming white meat babyface. He wears white gear and we're in the Tokyo Dome, 45,000 people or something like that. I'm thinking like, how can I make this look different? I want to take everything away from the fans that they physically recognize me for. I thought, wouldn't it be cool if it was like Ibushi wrestling against the Shadow? And that was my original concept. I was just going to be head to toe black, completely black, and so for the people in the back it would look like he was wrestling against the Shadow, and that kinda slowly developed into the Demon in the weeks leading up to the Dome show where we'd done it first. When the Demon made its way to WWE, it became a bit more stylized but still incredibly cool. The idea behind the WWE Demon was that Finn could tap into this dark side of his character and unleash the Demon during high stakes matches or when Finn needed an edge over tougher opponents. The Demon relied on intimidation, it relied on challenging opponents in an almost mental manner, but the Demon wasn't invincible and the Demon could be beaten. At first, it was a guaranteed payoff device, and fans knew when Finn's alter ego came around, shit was about to go down. But this wasn't the case as time went on, and the way WWE handled the Demon is something Finn himself isn't too keen on. Finn enjoyed the surprise of the Demon, never knowing when the alter ego was going to show up. And he didn't like the fact that he was booked in a manner where Finn Balor needed the Demon to win matches because it looked like Finn Balor, the plain wrestler, wasn't good enough. That being said, I think this has been fixed somewhat and the Demon showing up's a lot more rare these days, but even the fact that the Demon gets advertised for big matches is something Fergal would like to avoid. Bray Wyatt's Fiend alter ego came from an evolution of Bray's regular on-screen character. Bray went from following the Buzzards to hosting a bright and cheerful puppet show known as the Firefly Funhouse, and this version of Bray Wyatt seemed to be suppressing something very sinister within his funhouse. The WWE built up the Fiend reveal very slowly over a lot of weeks, and when the Fiend finally got unleashed, the alter ego really was a stark and shocking contrast in comparison to the Firefly Funhouse. The Fiend existed to protect the Funhouse, and when Bray transformed into the Fiend, it allowed him to be as brutal as he wanted to be. Yet he was still able to remove the persona, go back to hosting his show, and tease his upcoming opponents by saying there's a Fiend waiting in the shadows. The Fiend, along with Finn Balor's Demon, was easily one of the hottest alter egos the WWE had introduced in the modern era, and it got over so well that it brought Bray Wyatt championship glory. Yet many were also not happy with how the Fiend got booked in big matches. There was a terrible Hell in a Cell match against Seth Rollins that had a referee stoppage. Goldberg defeated The Fiend at Super Showdown 2020, which fans weren't happy about, and then Randy Orton got a win over The Fiend at Mania 37, which again didn't make too much sense, seeing as The Fiend could have done with a big win on the WWE's biggest stage. For all the bad booking decisions though, the actual creative ideas behind The Fiend were good. The Firefly Funhouse had some legitimately creepy moments, and the Fiend character itself just looked like pure evil. Matt Hardy felt he needed to change things up in TNA. He was in danger of becoming stagnant, he was in danger of just becoming another old tag team wrestler. So he introduced what was effectively an eccentric madman that actually revitalized TNA programming for a little while. After taking a swanton bomb from Brother Jeff through a table, Matt's mind became shattered. He unlocked the spiritual brilliance of an ancient soul named Zenith that dated all the way back to 7 AD, and he began speaking with a bizarre theatrical accent while also gaining a streak of grey hair. Broken Matt Hardy became obsessed with deleting the people who opposed him. His brother Jeff, now named Brother Nero according to Matt, was going to fall victim to the broken brilliance soon enough. The gimmick lent itself to a whole subgenre of pro wrestling that became much more popular after Broken Matt made his debut, that subgenre being cinematic matches. We all know matches took place away from traditional wrestling rings in the past, but the final deletion, airing on July 5th, 2016, became so popular that other wrestling companies would follow the same formula. Broken Matt's matches at the Hardy compound were good because they weren't supposed to be taken seriously. They were incredibly fun and they gained TNA some serious attention during a time when the company was on a downturn. And as for Matt himself, it truly brought him to the forefront of the wrestling world, seeing as no one could stop talking about Broken Matt Hardy. The gimmick would eventually make its way to the WWE, with Matt initially coming back as a standard Hardy boy, only to morph back into Woken Matt Hardy. Yeah, the WWE went with Woken instead of Broken. Though it could be argued that the WWE missed out on what made Broken Matt Hardy so special to begin with, and they didn't capitalise on the character by keeping him in the mid-card. It was Mick Foley's Cactus Jack character that got him recognised, and it was Cactus Jack that wrestling fans were most familiar with. When Mick went to the WWF, he became Mankind, and Mankind would become much better known for fans who only watched WWF programming, though that's not to say the gimmick wasn't good. Cactus Jack was brutal, a no-nonsense hardcore brawler who travelled all over the world to compete in some of the most barbaric matches possible. He even wrestled Van Hammer in WCW, for crying out loud. But when Mick came to the WWF, his character became that of a masochistic, tortured soul who lived in arena boiler rooms and made friends with the boiler room rats. Mankind was also troubled. He was sadistic in the ring, yet he also had a softer side that came out every now and then, and it was that softer side that helped introduce fans to another face of Mick Foley, that being Dude Love. Mankind spoke about wanting to be accepted when he was younger. He talked about wanting to be popular with girls in his school and wanting to impress his peers, only to get bullied and ridiculed for his efforts. When he was a young lad, he envisioned becoming a wrestler named Dude Love, who was all about peace, love, and gaining all the glory. And this wasn't a fabricated wrestling story either. Mick really did come up with the Dude Love character when he was still in school. In the WWF, Mick shocked everyone when he came out on Raw to wrestle Triple H as Cactus Jack. He then reverted back to being Mankind. Jack would make appearances every now and then when Mick needed to get a little more violent. And then Dude Love showed up when Steve Austin needed a tag team partner. Keep in mind, Austin already rejected Mankind as a tag partner, but old Stone Cold didn't say anything about Dude Love. From here, Mick could tap into any one of these three alter egos when the time was right, even making history entering the Royal Rumble match 3 separate times under 3 different personas. Each alter ego was just as popular as the next, and it allowed Mick to tell some great stories, particularly when Dude Love couldn't get the job done against Steve Austin, and Vince McMahon ridiculed him the same way the school bullies ridiculed Mick all those years ago. While many of you, I'm sure, would put the Blue Blazer down as a gimmick change and not a true alter ego, you have to remember the weeks and months before Owen's passing. Instead of using the Blue Blazer to tap into a different side of his personality, Owen would instead use the character to try and fool his opponents, like he was playing a rib that went on for ages where he insisted he wasn't the Blue Blazer, but everyone knew he was. To try and trick people, Owen would get other people to wear the costume. Some of these replacement Blue Blazers were effective, others not so much. But Owen did flip back and forth quite a few times from wrestling as just Owen Hart to the Blue Blazer, so I'd class that as an alter ego. An alter ego used for all the wrong reasons, maybe. You know, it's quite a conflicting thing. On one hand, I thought the stuff Owen was doing with the Blue Blazer was actually decent, and I know people see it as more of a punishment, seeing as Owen didn't want to go ahead with a Deborah McMichael storyline. But Owen acting totally oblivious as to who the Blue Blazer was pretty funny in my opinion. On the other hand, if the Blue Blazer never got reintroduced to WWF television, then Owen might still be here today, so it's difficult to put any praise on the storyline itself. Just the words Blue Blazer instantly make me think of the accident. Let's take a time out and look at some alter egos that were brought on for one specific reason. These were used because the original wrestler behind the alter ego either got suspended or fired. These don't count as true alter egos, rather the guy playing the character was trying to get one over on the company due to losing a stipulation match or getting outright fired by their boss. So let's look at some tricksters of pro wrestling who tried to pull the wool over our eyes. First up, Brian Pillman. At Clash of the Champions 15, happening in June 1991, Pillman teamed up with Elegante in a losing effort against Barry Windham and Arn Anderson. This was a loser leaves WCW match, so Brian was forced to leave the company and find work elsewhere. Instead of doing as he was told, he re-emerged with a mask and he was now known as the Yellow Dog, which was one of Barry Windham's previous gimmicks. The Yellow Dog stayed around for a few months before Pillman got reinstated in August 91, and the Yellow Dog was never seen again. Dusty Rhodes unleashed the Midnight Rider after getting suspended from the CWF promotion for 60 days, and Dusty got around this band by becoming a new character. Many people knew the Midnight Rider was actually Dusty, including Kevin Sullivan and JJ Dillon. These boys brought their case to the NWA committee, but without solid proof, they couldn't do anything. So a bounty was offered to anyone who could unmask the Midnight Rider. Ric Flair would get $50,000 from JJ Dillon if he removed the mask. Flair said he'd do so in an NWA title match, but the Midnight Rider ended up defeating Flair and he became NWA champ. He had to give the title back up though because he refused to take the mask off, which was kinda smart seeing as Dusty would have been suspended for 1 year if he was found to be avoiding NWA sanctioned stipulations. I'll put together a video on the Midnight Rider in the future actually, there's a lot to dig into. John Cena was forced to leave WWE after refereeing a match between Wade Barrett and Randy Orton. Before this, Cena was forced into being a member of the Nexus 2, but he wanted nothing to do with it. If Wade Barrett lost this match, Cena would have to leave WWE, and when good guy Cena did the right thing and Randy Orton won, John found himself in the unemployment line. At live events following Survivor Series, Juan Cena showed up. The disguise wasn't great to be fair, but apparently this was the lucha cousin of the famous John Cena, who just so happened to also perform the Attitude Adjustment and the STFU. What's noteworthy here is that Juan Cena didn't compete on Raw, SmackDown or on pay-per-view. He only wrestled on live events, and John was officially reinstated to compete about a month later, and that meant Juan Cena was gone. Hulk Hogan got fired by Vince McMahon, and in no time at all, Stephanie McMahon was really excited to announce a brand new wrestler to the SmackDown roster. Mr. America appeared on the blue brand along with Hulk Hogan's old Real American theme, Hogan's signature Fu Manchu. Yet still, to this day, many are totally convinced that this isn't Hulk Hogan. As a matter of fact, you might get into deep trouble if you even suggest it's Hulk Hogan. First appearing as the Great Muta on the NWA WCW television show back in 1989 and being billed as the son of the Great Kabuki, Keiji Muto's alter ego, the Great Muta, would go on to become a bona fide pro wrestling legend and possibly the greatest alter ego of all time. After finishing up in WCW, Keiji returned to New Japan, and he had waited until September of 1990 to introduce the Great Muta character in front of Japanese audiences. And from here, the Great Muta alter ego would get used for big matches, while Muto would wrestle as himself for more regular run-of-the-mill matches. The Great Muta came across as a much more dangerous and much more unpredictable version of Keiji Muto. He'd rely on the gimmick to reach the very top of the mountain when he defeated Riki Choshu for the IWGP Heavyweight Championship, and as time went on, the Great Muta would become much more violent and much more unpredictable as many of his matches turned into complete bloodbaths. When NWO Japan became a thing, Keiji would confuse people due to his own inner conflictions. When he appeared as the Great Muta, he was part of the Black and White. When he appeared under his real name, he'd be fighting the good fight for New Japan. Though in the end, he'd turn heel and end up joining the NWO while using his real name. And from here, he and Masahiro Chono dominated the New Japan Tag Division. Muto would then become leader of NWO Japan. Chono didn't like how Keiji ran business, so the two would collide, which then created a feud between the NWO and Chono's new Team 2000 faction. Again, I'd like to cover this in more detail, but getting this stuff past New Japan's copyright bots is an absolute nightmare. Anyway, this is just a brief glimpse into the Great Muta, but we aren't done yet, because Keiji Muto had another persona who would only appear on rare occasions. Kokushi-Muso, or just Kokushi, is Keiji Muto's rarest alter ego. At the time, Muto was part of the Badass Translate trading stable, a faction that competed in New Japan, All Japan, and Michinoku Pro, and the Kokushi-Muso alter ego was a direct homage to stablemate Gensai Shinzaki, better known to American audiences as Hakushi. The one night that stands out though is the All Japan Kings Road 30 Giant Battle Show taking place on the 20th of July 2002. This one features 3 matches where Keiji used 3 of his personas. He wrestled Kaz Hayashi as Kokushi-Muso in a pretty odd yet still highly entertaining bout. He then competed in a 6-man tag as plain old Keiji Muto while teaming up with Mil Mascaras and Dos Caras, and then he busted out the Great Muta alter ego to take on the Great Koji. Keiji Muto won every match he competed in on this night, and rightfully so, no one complained. I'm pushing my luck here with all this Japanese stuff, but the good news is my editor Brett put together a full video breakdown on Kishin Liger that's available for free on my Patreon page. You can just visit the page without signing up and you can watch the whole thing, so do make sure you do that because I can't show much of the match here. Even screen grabs are at risk of getting taken down. It was the Great Muta who unleashed the dark side of Jushin Liger, a dark side that absolutely no one expected, so it all came across as pretty shocking. Muta beat the crap out of Liger and he humiliated him by ripping away at his mask, but under the mask was an evil, unhinged version of Jushin Liger that was much more twisted. The fact that it came out of absolutely nowhere and the fact that Liger was always a babyface through and through makes it one of the most interesting transformations you'll ever see. Kishin Liger wasn't a one and done deal either, though his appearances were extremely rare. Again, go check out that video on my Patreon page if you want to learn more. It's a full 20-minute look at the Muta match, the Kishin Liger reveal, and also a look at the matches Kishin appeared in afterwards. This one was done for comedy purposes, but it worked well because fans were more than happy to play along with it. The WWE and Elias insisted that Ezekiel was Elias's brother. It wasn't Elias with a new shave and a new haircut, this was a completely different person. Kevin Owens absolutely refused to accept this premise, but to their credit, the WWE went the whole 9 yards by giving Ezekiel his own profile page on their website, his own interview articles and videos, which made it seem like he truly was a new superstar, and he even cut promos alongside Elias. Ezekiel played it cool. He didn't understand why others thought he might actually be Elias, and he acted as if nothing was out of place. But Kevin Owens was truly irate at all this, and Kevin was absolutely dumbfounded that no one else could see that this wasn't some newcomer arriving to WWE. Both Elias and Ezekiel would wrestle during the same brief time period, so it qualifies as an alter ego that was used to trick everyone. Joseph Park was a brilliant inversion of the alter ego idea. Instead of simply giving Abyss a new coat of paint, TNA introduced a nervous, polite lawyer who claimed to be Abyss's brother, though as time went on it was suggested that the monster and the mild and nervous lawyer were not as separate as they seemed. At first, Joseph arrived at TNA representing the Park and Park law firm. He was searching for his missing brother, and when he was forced into physical confrontations, he showed absolutely zero coordination and zero fighting ability. But if Joseph saw his own blood, he'd snap, and this somehow made him pull off moves more associated with Abyss, such as the Black Hole Slam. So what we've got here is an alter ego with quite a lot of value, seeing as it allowed Park to work comedy, sympathy and horror into the character all at once. Joseph Park's biggest early in-ring story was a feud with Bully Ray. Park beat Bully Ray at Slammiversary 2012 after he disappeared under the ring only for Abyss to appear moments later. Park would then re-emerge and he'd pin Bully to get a fantastic reaction from the audience. But even after the monster appeared, Abyss was still kept at bay for a while. Joseph Park would stay on TNA television for a pretty long time, and the experiment worked far better than most split persona wrestling stories usually do because the audience bought into both halves of Joseph's character. The whole thing was highly praised due to both the psychological aspects of the character along with the comedy elements sprinkled throughout, though it all had to end sometime and a payoff was eventually needed. In the end, Park accepted his dual identity. He got quite emotional when he realised he and Abyss were the same person. And all in all, it was one of TNA's best long-running character arcs that doesn't get praised as much as it should. Loads left off as usual, particularly from Japan, but let me know more in the comments and I'll see if we can put together a part 2. As mentioned though, we need to gather alter egos and not just straight up gimmick changes, and that's where the challenge lies. Something I noticed when scripting this video though is that it does take a whole lot of work to pull this kind of stuff off, and it works even better if the wrestling organisation handles it well. Many would argue that Finn Balor's demon could be much more effective if it was initially reined in a little during those early days, and many would also agree that the Fiend was an excellent character, yet his match bookings didn't marry up well with what the character was trying to achieve. But then you've got the likes of the great Muta who became an all-time great alter ego, so yeah, swings and roundabouts. Let me know your thoughts in the comments and I'll be back soon with another upload. Thank you very much for watching folks, and please take care.